Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.
Been all over it, effectively spending her entire honeymoon reporting on these issues. Dianna Russini, and thank you for that, because you have been all over these scheduling changes which affect any number of teams. They have listed just reaction all across the league with so many people affected. So first of all, what's the latest with the Jets?
Yeah, there's been a lot of good news today, but really this bad news popped up earlier today with the Jets having a player that possibly could be tested positive for COVID-19. So here's what I've learned over the last few hours. They're rerunning a test on that player and the other players on this team. They really want to make sure that there isn't an issue. Now, in terms of the game, because that's, of course, the next big question, the Arizona Cardinals are planning on traveling to New Jersey tonight as if this game is planned. Now, when I reach out to a source in the league about how they handle these situations, the way I understand it is right now there are no plans to move this game. The game is going to be played at 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium as of right now. And I also learned, Hannah, that there have been about 60 other cases where one player or one staff member from an organization has tested positive, and there haven't been any issues past that. So the league has seen this before over the last few weeks, and they have been able to control it. But of course, it's going to be very important to see what this test result will be, whether it'll be positive, negative, and if there are other players on this New York Jets team or on their staff that have tested positive as well. So we'll know more answers later today.
Right. Stay tuned, as they say. All right. So just to unpack everything else that has unfolded, no new positive COVID-19 tests today for the Titans or off the books. That was going to be a titanic matchup between two undefeated teams, the Bills and the Chiefs. But first, Dianna, what is happening in terms of the league's investigation into the Titans and this reported unauthorized workout?
So we're waiting to find out what the results of that investigation are. Of course, they looked in to see if the Titans perhaps broke protocol. We've seen now photos of players working out at a high school field nearby. And Hannah, here's what I've learned from talking to players about this. They were told that they could work out, but the way they understood it was they could work out outside, not indoors. What they didn't understand is they actually weren't allowed to work out. So there's a really long timeline here and a little bit of he said, she said. But overall, from what I can gather from talking to the league office, from talking to the Tennessee Titans, players, all these people that are involved, it seems that there was just a gigantic miscommunication, that there was no malice here. This wasn't the Tennessee Titans saying, you know what, we don't care about COVID, we want to play, we're going to do whatever it takes. That has not been the attitude. And I know from covering this team pretty closely that they take COVID-19 and all the precautions very, very seriously. So I can tell you also the players from both the Buffalo Bills and the Titans today, everyone is energized that this game is on. And of course, Tennessee psyched that they got this positive test, or at least a negative test back today as a positive thing. But of course, this is just one step. They need tomorrow's test to come back negative as well before they can enter the facility on Saturday afternoon to prepare for Tuesday's game at home.
I mean, it's just a domino effect, because the situation with the Titans has affected the Steelers and the Bills and the Chiefs by definition. It just keeps going. Again, I mentioned that great matchup on Thursday night. That is now postponed. We're going to have Monday night doubleheaders, and I'm wondering with all of this, because it's not entirely unexpected, how much discussion there has been with the league moving forward towards that possible 18th week of competition to really clean up some of these games that are missed, because there's no margin for error here.
Yeah, I'll be quick with you here. I had a conversation with someone in the league this morning about that, and he said, look, we're keeping this in our back pocket. We're keeping that week in case this gets really bad. This seems bad to us because we've been talking about it all week, and every time there's another test, it sort of feels like, you know, the season's coming to an end. But the league was prepared for this, and at this point, it's been looked at as pretty successful. We're already in October here, and we've dealt with just really one team dealing with an outbreak. And good news, of course, the Patriots and the Chiefs getting negative tests back today as well. So not only are they planning on using that extra week as their sort of emergency break last week for these games, but also they've looked at Tampa. We know, of course, the Super Bowl is going to be played there. They're in conversations with the facilities there to push back the Super Bowl if they have to. Of course, that is not something the league wants to do, as we've seen them be really aggressive about playing these games. But if it were up to me, I'd say leave those Thursday night games. You're on the call. You need your assignments there, Hannah.
I'm so bummed. That was our best matchup of the season.
It was.
And now it's not happening. But Diana, you know what the most important thing is? That everybody's safe. And really keep in mind that they do have to play these games. And all these people are like, oh, the Titans should forfeit games. Listen, if you don't play a game, that means players on both sides don't get paid. And that's something else we need to keep in mind. Diana, as always, yeoman's work, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
In this game, and our insider Dianna Russini is here. And Dianna, I know you've been working. I saw you in the newsroom working the phones like crazy this morning, and there is news from Tennessee today, and it's good news.
Yeah, it's great news, actually. No positive COVID-19 tests today. This is not the other players that have tested positive. If you've tested positive for COVID-19, you're on a list. You're not even involved. You don't even go to the facility. But the players that have all been testing negative, they continue to test negative. Also, the New England Patriots, they tested negative, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, those two teams in contact with each other from Monday night's game. So now we have these games that are scheduled, and it looks like all positive news that they will be played. But again, this is just one step towards playing that game. The Titans still need to test negative for COVID-19 tomorrow. Again,
I get it, but I will take good news wherever I can get it, considering what yesterday was. It's positive news because the tests are negative. Before I let these football players have at it here, let's you and I have a civilized conversation.
Let's do it.
What are you hearing from people around the league? There is, I'm going to use the word furious to describe what I've heard from a lot of people about the situation in Tennessee. What are you hearing from people across the National Football League?
So let's just start with how the Tennessee Titans organization is handling this as a whole. From what I can tell at the NFL front office, they've been very protocol, and a lot of the players described it to me as a miscommunication. What they were being told from their front office was a different message that was being told from the NFL. So it seems like there was a gigantic miscommunication here. But that being said, the first step for this Tuesday game to be played was made today, and that is negative COVID-19 tests. So all good news. Tomorrow they need to test negative once again so they can get back in the facility and begin preparations against Buffalo.
Which is obviously great in the big picture, because there was some legitimate concern this game would ever be played at all. But Jalen, here's what I wanted to hear from you today. As I was listening to conversations about this yesterday, following it on social media, as I know you do as well, there's a lot of talk about what the punishment should be. If teams are found, players are found to not follow protocols closely, games could be forfeited. If games are forfeited, then the players on the other teams don't wind up getting their game checks either. So there's a lot of discussion, a lot of anger. Jalen, I'm curious, what is your perspective on what should be done if teams are found, players are found not to be following the protocols?
And see,
I need to jump in here because we have breaking news. Adam Schefter tweeted 1 minute ago, after a presumptive positive player test today, all Jets players and coaches were just sent home, per source. So while we get good news out of Tennessee, and we get good news out of New England, and we get good news, what was the third one today?
The Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Titans.
And the Titans were the third.
Negative.
We get this news from, again, this is from Schefter. This is all I have. After a presumptive positive player test today, all Jets players and coaches were just sent home.
Yeah,
so Diana, take us through the protocols here. Now what happens?
Yeah, I'm getting a text message right now from someone on that staff that is saying the same thing that Schefter is. So usually what happens is the league steps in immediately when there's a positive test for COVID, when a player's result comes back, and they are the ones to usually shut the facility down. I know in Tennessee, it was actually the GM there who shut it down before the league even stepped in at that point. But now they start working from home, it becomes virtual, and they start using that tracing to figure out who else was around and exposed to that player.
But let's do math here. Then they play Sunday. This is Friday. They play the Cardinals Sunday. We're not going to do the picks piece today, by the way, guys, because obviously this game is now very much in question. What happens here? If this is Friday, they've been sent home. They've had a week of work. If they get negative tests, could they still, in theory, play this game Sunday?
Yeah, you're going to see what we kind of saw with New England, right? Cam tested positive Saturday morning. He took that test Friday night. They did move that game, though, so you have to figure that I'm sure it's already starting to be discussed what they're going to do with that game. It will potentially probably be moved, but here's the other part of this is they need to figure out who that player is and who was exposed to him. And I'm going to guess if it's a player like Cam Newton who was around a lot of people, a quarterback, let's say, I'm sure the league is going to have to consider moving that. But all this is very fluid as it comes down, as the league tries to make these decisions with the players' union.
I'm just trying to follow this as it's breaking across. I apologize for looking down here, but this is literally developing as we speak. Dianna, how would go ahead? You look like you have more.
No, go ahead.
Okay. How would you characterize the reaction the league has had to all of this? Which is the question I'm asking you is, have things happened that were unexpected? Is this more challenging than you believe the league expected going into this season?
I actually think this isn't as challenging as the league expected. The league was prepared to see this. And the fact that we've gone this far into this season, we're headed into week 5 here, and this has happened, it's not as alarming. They've done a really good job. And here's the thing. They've really tightened these protocols. And talking to teams that are up and running and they're practicing and they're safe and they're COVID-free, they've upped it even more within their facility about how seriously they take it. But as we've learned, and I talked to people in New England about how serious Bill Belichick takes COVID, and it doesn't shock anyone that they do take it as serious as you can imagine, it still doesn't matter. It's still a pandemic. And this is what we saw Mike Vrabel talking about last week. It's nobody's fault.
Right.
This happens. Players are going home to their wives, their children who are spending time in their communities. This is going to happen, and not all these tests are coming back correct.
Let me just make 100% clear what you just said. The Cardinals and Jets are scheduled to play a 1 o'clock Eastern time game here across the river in MetLife Stadium. Would you expect, did you just say you would expect that game will be moved?
I don't know just now, but you have to look at this as they're not going to want this to spread and have another situation that we saw with Tennessee.
Clearly not. No. Ryan Clark, let me come to you if I still have RC. Ryan, what's your reaction here?
No, I mean, I think this is where we are. This is the times that we are in, and I believe the NFL understood.
Don't be a boob. For more videos like this one, please subscribe to this channel.
Last hour, our ESPN NFL insider Dianna Russini is here. Dianna, what do we have in Indianapolis?
Yeah, good morning. Indianapolis put out a statement today saying that they have several members of their organization that tested positive for COVID-19. They're rerunning those tests right now. They took those POC tests, those were down, and we're going to work virtually all day long.
I remember you were sitting here with me last Friday when this happened with the Jets. They had the one test. They sent everybody home. They wound up playing the game on Sunday, so it is possible that this game will still be on.
Yeah, we saw in Atlanta yesterday, there was one member of the staff that tested positive, and I was told they actually could have practiced yesterday, but we're at a point right now where nobody wants to take any risk. They want to be very cautious to make sure these games are played.
All right, so these are the realities of football in 2020. Meanwhile, speaking of football, what a week. As most people are aware, they flexed that game. They moved that game out of the primetime spot because there is some concern it may not be played. What is the very latest?
Yeah, so I checked in with sources with the league and with the Raiders. This game is scheduled to be played at 4:05 Eastern on Sunday. But the situation that they're dealing with right now is they have their entire staff. They're going to take those POC tests. That's the rapid feedback COVID-19 tests. If they pass, if those come back negative, they'll be able to play. If they don't, what will happen is there's an advisory board that the league came up with. Their former NFL head coaches, players. There's about 7 or 8 of them on this board. And what they'll do is they'll have a conversation about what's next. What should they do? Should the Raiders be allowed to play? Should they move the game? And it will really come up to their decision. But I'm told as of now, the plan would be this game is on, even if those offensive linemen are not going to be able to go. So this is going to be a challenge for the Raiders.
This is one of the most interesting things that has happened, in my opinion, so far in this 2020 year that we're living with in football. Bart Scott, I'll just ask it to you directly. Yeah. I heard your voice when she said that. I heard you behind me sort of groan. Can a team play a game? Can they reasonably be expected to play a game without their entire star? If it is found that they didn't follow the protocols well, in theory, you might say to yourself, well, then just make them forfeit. But that has all sorts of negative consequences, including for the team that they would be playing.
Yeah. Well, the league is going to want this game to be played, right? I think they've proved over the last few months that they're making this work, and it has worked. That's been the great thing about this, is they've been able to shuffle this around. But really, it's going to come down to Sunday morning and those POC tests. And guys, we've seen the POC tests in the past not always be the most efficient either. So you have some concern here. If they do come back clean with these COVID tests, are they really clean? And that has to be concerning.
Ryan Clark, I'm just curious what thoughts are going through your mind here, as one way or another, the decision will be made on this Sunday morning.
More on this from the Raiders. Let's bring in our NFL insider, Dianna Russini. So, Dianna, what more can you tell us about the Raiders' situation right now?
Yeah, Matt, the good news here is all the COVID-19 tests today came back clean for the Raiders. So this is just the first step of 3 more we got to get to make sure this Sunday game is being played. As of right now, 4:05 Eastern, it is on time for Raiders and Bucks. But essentially what's going to happen now over the next few days, just like we see with every other team, they're going to continue their testing. And on Sunday morning, that offensive line that is currently quarantining because they've been around each other, and the NFL and the NFLPA reviewed some things going down in Las Vegas, and they found that Trent Brown wasn't wearing his tracing band to see where he has been, and also they found that some offensive linemen weren't wearing their masks during practice. So right now they are quarantining. Sunday morning, they will take a rapid test to make sure that they are testing negative for COVID-19, and if so, then they will be cleared to go. I am told, though, by a source that even if those offensive linemen test positive for COVID-19 on Sunday morning, this game will most likely still be a go, as it's the responsibility of the organization to make sure that they follow along with that COVID-19 protocol. And based on that review, that is not exactly what happened here. So game on Sunday as of right now.
That is unbelievable. Literally day to day when it comes to the COVID protocol around the NFL. And the Bucs defense has been playing really, really good first and total defense this season. All right, some other notable wide receiver injuries. We're going to go tape to tape with this, starting with Saints receiver Michael Thomas.
Just when you thought Michael